Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This is Chapter 7 of The Dark. Medical Center, Nuestra Colony, 2462. Rias. The gentle sound of the refresher awakened me. It sounded like water dribbling from the part of the dome above the hydroponic orchard. They call it rain. It only happens for a few minutes each morning, and sometimes, when I'm off shift, I wander around the trees enjoying the rare sensation. Manuel thought I was nuts. Only freaks want to stand in water dripping from the top of the dome. Ian stepped out of the refresher, drying himself. Deliciously naked. Slim hips, long legs, muscled chest. He toweled his head dry. He hadn't shaved. He kept the rest of his body hairless. Maybe it's because he's in and out of vac suits all the time. Maybe he just likes being smooth. I'm in lust with him, especially his shoulders. Strong and smooth and sensuous. His back descended to his hips in the classic V shape. I rolled to my back and forced myself to stare at the boring ceiling. If I were feeling better, I would probably say something. What would it be like to wake next to him? I bit my lip to keep from smiling. Stuck in medical and nearly dying had one benefit. I closed my eyes before Ian realized I'm awake. Fabric rustled, and I couldn't resist. I took a little peek. His back was to me, and he had pulled on gray briefs, followed by the medical jumpsuit. His back was muscled and smooth, and each muscle was separate from the ones next to it. His lats angled to his butt like a work of art. Too bad he covered it with the jumpsuit. We have to do something during the long, boring trips through jump space, Ian said. He turned, smirking. A lot of us work out. Enjoy the show? You knew I was awake? My voice sounded like I was gargling gravel, but my throat didn't hurt as much as yesterday. Your eyes gave you away, Ian said, fastened the jumpsuit, and picked up a couple of cushions. You've been asleep for 18 hours. How do you feel? Hungry and really tired, I said with a very hoarse voice. Watching where he placed his feet, Ian tiptoed through my field of parts. Doc won't let you eat yet, but there's a place in the food court that makes a nice horchata. You interested? With a nod, I pointed at my throat. Good thing I already got you one, Ian said. He went to the other room and returned with the horchata. Voice again? Again, I nodded. Ian handed me the drink and a straw, and I sipped it. Its coldness was heaven on my throat. The nanites have repaired most of the radiation damage in my body, but Doc isn't happy with my leg, or my ribs, or my head. That makes us roommates for another week, Ian said, placing a foot to the side of the arm diagram. Just wait until I drive you crazy, I said. You mean like Perlita or Manuel? They've never been on a ship before. What you've got on the floor is nothing compared to what Carruthers does when she has to pull apart the engine. And your designs? You should see what Gallagher draws on the mess hall walls when he's plotting a new course. Someday you'll have to introduce us, I said. As he knelt down next to my bunk, Ian fingered the nanite cuff, the IVs, and the blood pressure monitor attached to my right arm. You've already met them, but you were unconscious all the time, he said. I guess I missed a lot. As I swung my legs over the edge, I saw the note Ian had written. Footpath? I asked. And spots for cushions. I'm not sitting on that floor. It's too cold. I placed the cushions on his bunk. You've been naked for 2 weeks. It's time to hop in the refresher and get dressed. I haven't had any visitors, have I? I said. Besides Rafaela, Gutierrez, his wife Karina, Emilio, Mr. Gunther, his assistant, Marisol, Manuel, the entire crew of the Adishachar, Carla, her daughter Val, Doc, the cute orderly in the other room, Marcial, and a few others. No one came, Ian said. In other words, the whole colony saw me naked. "Who do you think is the cute one?" I said. Standing, I got dizzy and almost fell, but Ian caught me. Bandages still covered his right shoulder, with the small blinking box on top of those. "Easy now," Ian said. "I'll call him. Elias, can you disconnect Rias for a few minutes?" A moment later, Elias walked in carrying his datapad. "You know I can hear every word you're saying, right?" "Does that mean you'll get a drink with me sometime?" Ian said. "Ian," I said, "you're asking him out?" "Why not? Nuestra must have something to do at night," Ian said. As he unhooked the IVs and the nanite cuff, Elias slowly smiled. "Thanks for the offer, but my wife might not appreciate that." "Just my luck. All the good-looking guys are already taken," Ian said. "Help me get Rias to the refresher." "Rias," Elias said, "you've got 15 minutes of freedom, then I'm hooking you back up." Ian. After the refresher, I helped Rias dress. His very loose-fitting wife-beater and jeans only confirmed what I knew all along. Rias had lost weight. Even worse, the white of the wife-beater only made his skin grayer. For 2 hours, Rias worked on the arm, and I helped. He would draw something odd on the cart or the scrap, then I would cut it out, and he would fit it into place. Rias didn't make mistakes. Each mark of the pen was as precise as if a laser cutter had made it. At least until the end, and his hand wavered. He slumped unconscious, so I placed him into his bunk. Rias had finished the framework of the arm and had lined up the electronics in rows according to some pattern that only he understood. I sat on his right. Even with the horchata, his voice gave out halfway through the project. Success, though. I had my footpath, which I used to get back to my bunk, and my borrowed datapad. The overall map of Nuestra was simple enough, and I plotted my way to the tram lines. This would be a quick trip. Maybe. After making sure Rias was resting, I left medical and found the South Dome tram terminal, and hopped on it. I got on the one that went the wrong direction, and took the long way to the spaceport. It allowed me to see some of the other domes. West Dome was a maze of machine shops and ore processors. North Dome was even more of a garden than South Dome. A dozen high-rises housed half the population of the colony. The food courts were close to the tram station. Central Dome had various shops and businesses and one main tower, CNC. It had a dome on top that allowed them to look into each other dome. East Dome was a gigantic garden with trees and parks and multiple levels of hundreds of hydroponic beds. The tram stopped at the tram station, then continued on to the spaceport. The spaceport was as big as the other domes, but it wasn't a dome. A huge rectangular building. It sat next to the landing pads and had long tubes that snaked out to the ships. It had 4 pads, 2 for incoming cargo haulers and couriers, 2 for the smaller colony shuttles. I was the only person in a medical jumpsuit and missing an arm on the tram. A couple of people had prosthetic arms. Everybody knew me. They asked about Rias, how I was doing. They already knew Rias was building my arm. There's no secrets on good old Nuestra. Just don't get mad at him if it shocks you the first time, an elderly woman said. Rias means well. Shocks? What? I said. Zacharias said that Rias always made the gain too high, she said. At least on the first arm. Rias always got it right on the others. Nuestra, gossip capital of the Bentley-Thwaite arm. The tram approached the spaceport. The last time I had been here was the last time I had piloted the Adisha Char. Suddenly, I was afraid. My heart beat faster as I left the tram. The Adi had docked on the left pad last time. Now both pads were empty. As I walked to the large viewport, my skin felt like 1,000 bugs were crawling all over me. I was more than afraid. How can life change so much, so fast? If I closed my eyes, I could hear the crew calling to each other. "At least you didn't get into any trouble this time," Carruthers had said to Gallagher as he ran to the docking tube minutes away from our scheduled departure time. "Do you think Captain Rowan would mind if I snuck someone on board?" Gallagher said. "Are you asking before or after she castrated you?" Robinson had said. The colony's 2 shuttles were docked to the left of the 2 larger pads used for cargo haulers. My legs shook. A dribble of sweat ran down the inside of my jumpsuit. Once again, I was back on the bridge of the Adi. The missile hit. Air blew out into the corridor. I jumped to close the wheel lock. Then came the crushing pain in my right arm as Gallagher's console smashed it. Captain Rowan must have been unconscious during the crash. Robinson was dead, and the rest of the crew were in life pods. Only I rode the Adi down. Only I remembered all of it. Coming here was a bad idea, and I'm glad there's nobody around to see me. I hopped on the tram and rode it back to South Dome, then went to the food court and the bar. 1 beer to forget, and a plate of chicken enchiladas. It's not real chicken, just something they make from mushrooms and vegetables. Meat was too expensive for a colony as small as this one. The enchiladas were good. In addition to the best beer, Nuestra also had the best food. Nothing but fresh ingredients hanging down every building. On the other side of the food court, Rias's Aunt Perlita entered, head down, staring at her datapad. She ordered something from a vendor and took her food to a table away from the others, and ate without looking up. Crisp, neat, wearing a custom-tailored sky-blue business suit, she stood out among the rest of us. A 1-armed man in a medical jumpsuit blended in with the miners and techs better than she did. The number of people I know in Nuestra is less than the number of fingers and toes I have. I guess I'm lonely. Maybe I want to know a little more about Rias, or maybe I need just a little bit of conversation. Picking up my food and beer, I headed over to her table. "Do you mind if I join you?" She glanced up and turned her datapad off. "Inocencio?" "Ian, please," I said, and sat opposite her. "You're Rias's aunt?" She sat upright, tilted her head, and studied me. "Yes, I am." "Rias mentioned you work in CNC," I said. "I do," Perlita said, and stuck her fork into a spaghetti dish and twirled it around. "It must be interesting," I said. Setting the fork down, she folded her hands together. "How many raiders did you see?" "2, I said. "Then they struck us with missiles. The first one vacked the ship and killed Robinson. The second knocked out systems. Why?" "Mr. Gunther is investigating all employees and administrators, anyone who had access to the Jump Gate database." Taking a bite, I leaned toward her and asked, "Does that mean you?" "I'm second in command. He thinks either I did it or somebody pulled something under my nose. Either way, it's a black mark on my record," she said. Robinson died. I nearly died. Rias is still in critical. The Adi is destroyed, and all Perlita cared about was a black mark on her record. I had to stay calm. "I'm sorry," I said. Perlita glared at me and said, "If it did any good, I'd be mad at you and Rias." An uncomfortable silence followed. I broke it. "Why did you want to get rid of Rias?" "Nuestra is poor. We could barely handle Rias's initial treatments, but he requires a specialized genetic nanite feed customized for his body. No one else can use it. Specialized nanites are too expensive to make, store, and take through jump space. One treatment equals our monthly budget, and he might need them for years. I don't care what Mr. Gunther said. We will ultimately have to pay for it. Nuestra can't afford it," she said, folding her arms. "Campbell Station can?" I asked. She nodded. "It's a dead point anyway. Jump space would kill Rias. There is only one cargo hauler, the Orion's Belt, jumping cargo between the last 4 stops of the arm. It also has to resupply the Jianghe, and that could take its own ship, Perlitas said. Rias should have died so your budget can live, I said, not believing what I was hearing. Perlita took a sip of her drink. Corporate needs another ship out here, preferably 2, but Bentley Thwaite is too cheap. This isn't one of the richer routes, I said. Now you see the problem. Rias's treatments are custom-made. They are expensive. They have a short shelf life, maybe a month at most, and right now there is no one to deliver them. I wanted him on Campbell to avoid this problem. When he's stable, he could have come back. You're right. We need more ships, I said, carefully agreeing. She picked up her datapad and left, leaving her food for me to clean up. Thank you for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.